Welcome to the Open House Podcast. I'm Kristina Moderis. And who are you?
I am Eric Mann, Kristina Moderis' wonderful partner.
So Stef is out sick, so I decided to record with my boyfriend, partner, whatever you want to call him, Eric. I talk about him so much on here, so might as well have you on here. Where are you right now? Why aren't we in the same room?
I'm hanging out at one of our rental properties. Currently filling up a pool because
we have a
rusty and I had to fix it. Yeah, we have a cowboy pool outside and it needed to be refilled before some tenants came in and stayed.
Customers.
Yeah.
What are we running? But so what happened at that? So this is the property. If you've been following us for a while, this is the property that me and Eric renovated our little side yard during COVID, and we Eric basically dug up this side yard with his by shovel, which was stupid of us. Now looking back, we shouldn't have done that. But put in a lot of power into that side yard, and we I guess zero-scaped it and put in gravel and pavers and a little couch and a cowboy pool. So then we decided to Airbnb it for a while. Then there's just a lot of issues, and we weren't making enough money that way. I don't think it was managed that well also. And it was just a lot of different issues. And then Eric, what happened when you went there this week?
Oh, somebody decided to spend a little time in the house while there weren't any guests, luckily, but they opened a window and helped themselves to the toiletries and whatever else they could find in here. And it's a little scary when we got in, but luckily they didn't trash the place. So grateful for that.
Someone broke in is what you were, your backwards way of saying that. That was an interesting way of saying that. But yes,
it's May 4th. I'm like Yoda, it's all a little bit jumbled up.
Oh no, do you see what it's so embarrassing. Okay. Also, Eric didn't know that this was going to be videotaped, and he was like, I don't look good. And I was like, you literally told me. So I just got a laser face treatment. And my face is really puffy right now. And he was like, you look like the main character, the girl in, what was it, Good Will Hunting.
Yeah,
and
she's got a strong jaw.
I didn't know what that meant. And I just looked her up and I was like, actually, yeah, I do have that. It's if you see me in person, it's a little, stronger over there. But yeah. So Eric, I look like a chipmunk and you look annoyingly handsome as always. But so anyway, we decided with this house, after someone broke in, you saw the knife. You walked in and you saw a knife on the counter, right?
Yeah, there's a big knife and some canned goods and tissues sitting on the futon, and I don't know. It was just
how did you know it wasn't just an Airbnb guest who made a mess?
Well, the back corner window was open, and they also weirdly reset the router, the Wi-Fi router. They reset it to the factory setting, which I have no idea, unless you do this regularly. I don't know how you would figure out to reset the router to get Wi-Fi to have internet access. They must have known nobody was staying here, or that it's an Airbnb.
They were probably
just a little unsettling. Yeah, they've probably been watching the property for a while. So
So after that, we were like, okay, last straw, not doing this anymore. I'm going to long-term rent this house. So it's funny because we literally that day we're like, we're doing it. And then you talked to one of our friends and they are looking to live in a new home. Their lease, I think their lease is up something. And so I think we're going to talk to them after this podcast, and I think they're going to rent our house. So this all really worked out well for us. Now, I mean, the last 5 months or so, it's been annoying, and I've been kicking that can down the road, just like hoping the problem would go away, and it didn't. It just got worse, and now we have a solution. Hopefully. Tell everyone a little bit about who you are, your background, and then we can jump into like what we're talking about today.
Yeah, well, I moved to Austin about 10 years ago, coming up on 10 years at the end of this year. And I've been here. I love it.
Here,
I
where?
moved here to
Did you,
Austin,
did you say
Texas.
Austin? Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we live in Austin, Texas. We love it here. And I actually moved down here for work, and not long after, I quit my job and ended up working for another company for a little while, but kind of always had some ideas in the back of my head about starting my own business and getting into my own thing. I've always been really into tinkering with things, construction projects, and as soon as probably within like 72 hours of meeting Kristina, she had me on a ladder, like hanging a swing chair, like in one of her rooms. Not that kind of swing, but
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
just doing handyman things, and I kind of have done that as a hobby for as long as I can remember. And partnering up with Christina in any respect always requires a little bit of elbow grease,
Oh yeah.
and it just happened to work out that I'm a pretty handy person. So
That's funny
um,
because I'm not a handy person, and when I met you, um, I had just bought the house you're in right now, Eric, the 13th Street house, and like I was like, yeah, I'm like resourceful, like I can figure this stuff out, and I like when you came to my house to like you I remember you installed this washer dryer, and you hung up this it was like a swinging hanging chair I got from a friend. It was nothing, yeah, anyway. But I was like, "Oh, I'm not handy," and no one in my family is, despite what they say. They like my dad. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this, but yeah, he's definitely not handy, and I always was like, "Oh, I was like, yeah, my dad's handy." I was like, no, 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 he is not. He definitely is not. He's like, well, let's just put this board up here and nail it with something, and I think that'll do. And Eric's like, measures things and is like very precise. And yeah, anyway, so you were very handy. And also, when we first met, I think within 6 months of meeting, you were a homeowner, right? You had, like, I helped you buy your first house.
yeah, month seven, I believe I closed on a house, which I quite honestly, before I met you, I didn't even know that I could afford a house, much less have a house that I could rent and live in. So that was pretty awesome.
So our relationship's give and take, I would say. But um yeah, so okay, so tell me more like about, so you said you moved here for a job, wanted to start your own business. What happened after that?
Yeah, so I did end up quitting my job and I started a business, LeverCraft Coffee, and that had some wild ups and downs. We opened a cafe which I built out of a old trailer that
Yeah,
we
that
picked up
was,
in Oklahoma together.
yes, it was like
Oh my
I really,
gosh.
that was a fun time but also a stressful time because me and Steph also, so we decided to start our open house Austin business at that time, and
Mhm.
we went to Eric and we were like, okay, well, we want to put a coffee shop on this building, so do you want to, and he was like, yeah, yeah, I'm down. So that was how that all started too.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Everybody says ignorance is bliss, and I think every time I do a major project like um, renovating a 40-foot, 70-year-old trailer, I realize that I'll probably never do it again. So
Mhm.
really, truly, ignorance is bliss,
Yeah.
because I don't think I'll ever do that again. But it was an amazing experience, and I learned a lot. I know how to pretty much build a house from ground up now.
Yeah.
And yeah, over the last few years, I've done a lot of odd jobs, kind of in my spare time, handyman work, and we built a really beautiful shed in the back of this house, actually, which unfortunately we put a little bit in the wrong spot. So we're in the process of moving it.
The city came
But
knocking, telling
yeah,
us to move it.
somebody mentioned that it was a little too close to the street. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but anyways, yeah, we did that and have done some other really fun projects. Building like faux fireplaces in a big living room with a blank wall.
You did that for Sydney's
And
client, right?
yeah, Sydney's
Mm-hmm.
client had us do that. That was a really challenging project, but super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then your sister started talking about putting a tiny house in the backyard of a house she just bought in California. And so, one thing
Yeah.
led to another, and we committed to doing that. And yeah, we're kind of halfway through the build process of that right now. So it's a
Yeah.
really fun project.
Yeah. Yeah. For context, my sister, I think y'all know we talk about this a lot, but me and my sister have partnered on a few properties. She's actually 10% owner of that house that Eric's in right now, the 13 our house that we were Airbnbing. And we bought a beach house together. And so she wanted a house in California that she could, have a home base. She just really hated like having to lease all the time and move around. And she wanted a place she could call home. So she bought a house in LA, which is very expensive. Her mortgage is really expensive. So she was like, I need a way to lower this. I mean, she has a great job, luckily, and it pays her well, but it's still like this mortgage is high. So she wanted a way to lower her mortgage. And she was talking with Eric for a while about potentially building a tiny house in her backyard. And so Eric and our friend Matt drove down to LA, right? Y'all drove.
Hmm.
How long was that?
It was like a 20-hour drive. We split it up
Wow.
into a couple days.
But you guys, I kept calling Eric and being like, so how's it going? Are you guys getting into any fights or like, are there any, just because I was like, wow, you guys are like, they were, so they were, my sister's house is not super big. It's only two bedrooms. So they were sleeping in one room on different twin mattresses, but like in the same room. They were like working together all day, sleeping in the same room. Like there was no space, right, for you to like have your alone time, but you were also constantly working. But you guys got
Hmm.
along somehow?
Yeah, sometimes you just meet somebody and you just know that, you can do crazy hard things together and not have any issues. And
Yeah.
Matt is one of those people. So he's a great partner and really fun to work with. And
Mhm.
yeah, without him, I don't think I could have done the project. So
Yeah,
I'm super grateful for him.
he's super patient too. Um
Very, very patient.
very patient. Okay, so I guess what made you all, cuz there was a garage there, right? Like one car garage where at the place where you guys were building this tiny house.
Yeah, so originally we were just gonna try to take that garage, which was about 280 square feet,
Mhm.
and just essentially finish it out. So we'd have to add plumbing, electrical, and then basically redo the siding and just kind of keep the frame and the roof. And after kind of doing the math and figuring out the amount of time that it was going to take to kind of retrofit that, I think both of us realized that it just didn't really make sense to keep the shed and instead just tear it down and build something the same size in its place. So,
What was like the main thing? Because I know a lot of people listening have something like that. Like we will often say, if you have, a detached garage, you can convert it. So what made you decide that it wasn't worth salvaging?
yeah, so the two main issues were the foundation, which the foundation of this garage was really just some very large, relatively thin pieces of concrete,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like I don't know, 6 by 6 foot pieces of concrete, and they are already kind of falling, or I guess they were kind of buckling in the center, so the weight of the sides of the shed were already kind of pushing it up. And then the major thing really was the roof. The roof was in really rough shape.
Mm-hmm.
And the back part of the lot, which we kind of found out later, The reason being, the back half or maybe back 7 or 8 feet of the roof just went like this and then just started sloping upwards. And it turns out that there was a big dead root in the back of the house, and they must have put an addition on there and then just left the root and then just like
Oh.
raised that back wall up like 3 feet, and then the front part was at the same level as the rest of the shed. So literally the roof was like, like at a 30-degree angle, or maybe not quite that exaggerated, probably 15 or 20-degree angle though upwards. And it just, the amount of time it would have taken to correct that, we would have had to lift the entire shed, then redo the foundation, maybe
Mm.
even do piers, and put it back down. And by then, the roof probably would have fallen off. I mean, who knows?
It
Um,
just I remember
who
seeing
knows what
it.
else could have happened?
It
Yeah.
was it was like I remember seeing it because my sister would like show me in videos, and I was like, "That's fine." And then seeing it in person, I was like, "No, this is I don't think so."
Yeah, I think it probably could have been done, but for an extra, I don't know, 15% of the cost of the build,
Mm-hmm.
it's just absolutely worth it to build something that is going to last, especially since
Yeah.
California there's earthquakes and,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, the soil, which we found out is just insanely soft. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to have a really good foundation to prevent um, the structure from falling down. So it just
So
wasn't worth it in the end to keep it.
yeah, what did you do to prepare? Like to like maybe what tools did you use to come with the floor plan? Like how what did you do before you went down there to prep and know what to expect?
Yeah, so the first really helpful thing was to get something from Steph in terms of kind of her design elements and
Mm-hmm.
kind of her vision for what the space would look like. So she's a professional designer, and so she sent us a deck and all the stuff that she wanted in it, and kind of showed us some spaces that she liked that already looked very similar. And um, then you basically just take all that information and start building a model in SketchUp, which is free. Anybody can use SketchUp. It's a very intuitive program, and what's really cool about it is designed for making buildings. So you can import windows and you can import floor color and all this sort of stuff, and then you can kind of like float around inside the building to get a good idea of what it's going to look like. Um, we didn't go kind of all out in terms of building a perfect 3D CAD design, but we did the basic blueprint and just kind of moved things around that way, and that's how we designed the initial build.
How did you know or decide how big you wanted it or how like the sizing or anything like that?
Yeah, so obviously the larger the building, the more expensive it's going to get. So we needed to keep in mind kind of what Steph's budget was originally, and then also we wanted to kind of maintain the integrity of like what the original shed was. So we basically took that blueprint of the original shed and copied it almost exactly,
Mm.
in terms of the size of it. So
Was that because of permitting? Like you figured it was like that was already on there? And I know you guys, so just a disclaimer, y'all, they did not go through permitting. And that's a risk that my sister took and was very aware that like things could go wrong, like the city could catch her. And we'll actually get into that a little bit later. But like, yeah, so I'm just wondering, did you originally want to go by those dimensions because of that? Because the city saw that as like I guess permitted as like that sizing.
yeah, that definitely played a factor. It also the dimensions. So the width is 12 feet
Mm.
by 20. What is it? 28 feet or 27, 28 feet, I think. And that also just happens to play really nicely with the standard sizing of building materials that you can use. So, a 4 by 8 sheet of plywood, if you have two sheets next to each other, that's going to be 8 feet wide. And then you can stagger them appropriately, so everything's up to code. So that was really the main thing, is just the sizing requirements were really more based on how easy can we make this build, not, how challenging or how big can we make it. So, and again, even, 10 square feet bigger might be an extra $5,000 or
Yeah.
500, it's just every single square foot that you're adding is going to add the cost of material and wiring and insulation and everything. So,
Right.
um, yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. So, would you say that you were kind of like the project manager of all this? Like you were working on the design and and then with Matt, he was kind of just like labor, like helping you get everything done.
Yeah, yeah. Matt, I guess you'd probably, if you wanted to put it into construction terms, would be more like the foreman, somebody
Mm.
who's on site making sure
Mm-hmm.
that, things are getting built. I was kind of the project manager slash GC. So, somebody who's kind of overseeing the project. Obviously, I was putting in the work on the job site as well, but,
Yeah, you guys were
um,
both working from like what 8 a.m. or 7
oh
a.m.
man, I
6.
mean, we probably put 12 to 14-hour days in 7 days a week for 21 days.
Yeah, it
It was
was a
crazy.
lot. It was a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, you guys were dead, and then my sister was is just like loves having people over. So it was just like a constant rotation of people coming in through the house, right? Which honestly is fun, but not when you're like working 12 hours a day. So,
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. That's what
no.
noise canceling headphones are for. So
Mm, that's fair.
you just go to sleep.
That's good. I guess not all of us are like so. I'm like so sensitive. If I don't get sleep, I'm like freak out, as you know. Just like,
Yeah, I have a really, I mean, you know this, like when I have a goal, like I can just, I mean, I
mm-hmm.
was just popping out of bed and I was like, here we go, but I just can't do that any other time unless I'm like, I got to get
I
this much
know,
done today, and it's the only time I can really just jump out of bed and be ready to go, even when I'm tired.
man. How do I motivate you to do that with like everything? Just be
I don't
like,
know.
this is. How do I make that everything a project where you're just jumping out of bed, so
Hmm.
excited? No, but I mean, that's great. That's great for you. Do you know roughly like how much was budgeted for this? Like I know it went over budget, but how much was budgeted uh originally? Like how much did you tell my sister that it would cost like for the whole thing to be built and done?
So to give you some context, so I'm
Mhm.
not just like throwing out a random number.
Mhm.
If you wanted to buy like a tiny house from a company with the kind of finishes that Steph was looking for,
Mhm.
not including permitting fees, shipping, or anything like that, is probably somewhere around $180,000
Oh my
um,
gosh.
and up. I mean,
Cuz
this
my
is not a
sister has
small building.
well, how many square feet is it?
It's like 312. So it's not something that you're just putting on wheels and driving onto the lot. It's 12 feet wide, so
Yeah.
you can't just transport something like that normally
Right.
on the freeway.
Well, and it's not two
Um,
stories because I'm pretty sure Steph Douglas. That's confusing. Steph Douglas's roll-on tiny house is pretty like it's pretty
it's
big.
big, but it's I don't think it's 12 feet wide. Maybe it is.
No, but
Actually, I'm not sure.
it's like I think it's like 200 and something square feet. Like it's not it's like
Yeah.
250 or something or maybe bigger. I don't know.
Hmm.
But yeah, so my sister has really bougie taste. Like her and Eric were like texting me separately while they were in California, and I was like, but my sister was like, Eric just doesn't understand, and Eric was like, she's buying $1,000 toilets, and I was like, I don't know. So yeah, they she has
Well,
expensive taste.
originally, yeah. So originally, when we started this project, her goal was to do it as inexpensively as possible. So, I have no qualm with her choosing her own situation, whatever fittings, whatever finishes she wants. Like, I think that's great. She should go for it. But yeah, there's definitely some conversations that we had about the initial budget and what the fixtures and finishes she decided to go
You're
with were going to
talking
do to the final cost.
you're
So,
talking like a politician. You're like there was some You're
I don't
like,
know. I'm trying to be neutral about it.
well, that's not what we do here. We're not neutral on this podcast. But
That's
anyway,
that's fair. But
yeah,
yeah,
you're
so
you.
to go back to your original question about the budget,
Mm-hmm.
we originally quoted her around $60,000. So did not include excavation or demo of the building, but that included everything beyond that. So foundation, framing, roof, finishing, everything. The cost was going to be about 60,000, and that was with her paying for all of the materials. So that's no markup from us. Our labor was originally supposed to be about 20% of that.
Mm.
And it definitely ended up going up a little bit just because we kept changing things around.
And that's
And
pretty
there were,
low, I would say, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, the other thing too, like some of the design choices really do change cost significantly. So I think the biggest
Yeah.
one and our biggest challenge was the roof. She wanted a 30-degree
Mm.
pitched roof, which is really, no, sorry, 37-degree pitched roof, which is really, really, really steep. So you can't climb on a roof right like that. And so just the logistics of going 15 feet up in the air on a ladder, trying to carry
Mm.
up big heavy panels and then metal panels, and of course, all through doing our roofing project, it was just like dumping rain. The backyard just turned into mud. So like just it was just so much work for one aspect of the project.
And she did
And
skylights, right?
yeah, and the skylights were an even bigger pain. Like skylights are incredibly difficult to install properly if you want to really waterproof them. But they do look really cool, and I honestly like. I think when all is said and done, the design is going to be incredible. I think it's going to be just as nice as her front house, if not nicer.
Oh, it'll definitely
Um,
be nicer. I mean, her front house is a really cool old craftsman house, but this one will be like you can tell like she has really good taste and she's not a designer. She is um
she works in that space. That's what I meant to say.
yeah, yeah, she works in fashion, but she is around a lot of people with a lot of taste and design skills, and one of her best friends is an interior designer. So yeah, she definitely knows what she likes, and it's awesome. It is cool, and her reasoning for spending this money is because she does want to get this tiny house written up in just publications, and she also wants to attract a certain type of clientele that is willing to pay high dollar to stay in her well designed home. So that's what she was doing. I would say yeah, it's hard. It would be hard for me to spend some of that on certain design choices, but you know, I think she knows what she's doing in that way. But we'll see. Would you say like the hardest part about this whole process is was the roof?
In terms of like the physical labor aspect, yes, definitely. That was
Okay.
that was probably one of the harder things I've ever done in construction, honestly. I have a lot of respect for people who do roofing every day, especially now.
Hmm.
Um,
How long did that take y'all to do? Like to maybe frame it out and then also like I don't even know what goes on with this.
yeah, so the framing is the easy part. I mean,
Okay.
we built a gable style roof, so the support of the roof actually goes through the front and back wall instead of onto the side walls. So
Mm-hmm.
then the rafters actually don't technically hold really any weight. So that was actually relatively easy to do.
Okay.
The hard part was just again just climbing up there, and you have to attach. Basically, you got to like slap 2x4s onto the deck that you just built that you're going to put the metal roof on, and then you got to like crawl up there. And again, it is what it is. It's just it was just a really challenging part of the project. So.
Yeah, that's fair. Wait, like now I'm thinking like what kind of like what were you renting? Like what kind of tools did you need? Because I know or equipment. Like I know you guys so you my sister hired someone to bulldoze the tiny home, but or the garage that was there. So you guys didn't need to do that. And then, but you had to dig out for the foundation, right?
Hmm.
So what tools did you need? Because I you drove with some of your tools from home, but then what did you need to rent anything while you were there?
Yeah, so we had to get an excavator, which you can actually rent those from Home Depot, or there's a ton of local, like large construction or heavy construction equipment
Mm-hmm.
rentals in any major city. So, I mean, in Austin, there's probably 20 different places you could get an excavator from, and they'll deliver it from anywhere between $300 to $700 a day, depending on what you're getting, plus delivery fees and everything. But yeah, that was a blast. You know, we got to dig holes with the excavator instead of a shovel, and definitely makes the work go by a lot faster. But in terms of tools, I think that's probably one of the biggest hang-ups for a lot of people who are doing any kind of construction project is, do you have the right tools to do the project? Because, it might only cost $500 in materials for the fence, but you might have to spend $1,000 on the right tools to actually put the fence up. So, collectively, Matt and I probably have $10,000 plus in just tools
Oh my god.
for all the various projects that we do. So
Oh my gosh.
it's pretty hefty investment, but it's when you have the right tool from the job for the job, it makes everything a little bit easier. So
Oh my
um,
gosh. Yeah.
it's
How
worth
many
it. It's worth it.
There's been so many times where I've gone to Home Depot. Well, before you, because now this is, you do those things, but I would go to
Hmm.
Home Depot like 10 times. I remember I talked about this on our podcast when me and Brent were trying to renovate our place in San Antonio, and we went to Home Depot 10 times in one day, and I was just like, we are this is so frustrating. It'd be like, okay, I'm ready, and then you'd be like, but wait, we need this one little tool thing that we're missing, or I got the wrong screw or whatever. It's so frustrating. Um
we're not above that either. We probably went to Home Depot 5 or 6 times in a day, at least a couple days,
oh, good. Okay.
at the time we were there.
That makes me feel
So,
better now.
yeah,
It's
it's not
just
just you.
okay, cool. Okay, so I get you're talking about you have all these tools for other projects. Can other people hire you right now?
I am actually not available. We still have to finish this tiny house, which I'm not really going to get into the specifics, but there's been some delays there. We're
Hmm.
obviously back in Austin, Texas, so we're waiting to go back out to California to do that.
Hmm.
But I have some other projects with LeverCraft Coffee that I've been working on for about 2 years that I need to finish up before I jump back into any more
Oh, yes.
construction work.
You want
So
to talk about it really quick?
yeah,
You're
yeah,
just building a grinder, a coffee grinder?
so during COVID, we kind of pivoted and we launched some coffee products, some espresso tools. One of them being a really cool espresso grinder. And long story short, that whole process kind of stopped abruptly about 2 years ago until we started developing our own product, and we've been working on that ever since. And hopefully, we'll be launching our new coffee grinder in the next 6 months here. So
Yeah,
keep an eye out for that.
he makes tools for at-home coffee nerds. So if that's you, then you should follow levercraftcoffee.com or go to that website. But I will say that we do host a community meetup every single month, and I typically drag Eric there. So if you are someone is trying to build their own tiny house, you should definitely come to our next community meetup, and he will probably be there and you can talk to him. And if you're like I want to know if Eric's coming because I want to talk specifically about tiny houses with him, just message us on Instagram and we'll let you know if he'll be there or not, or if we're in town or out of town, whatever. But yeah, you can always come to those meetups. We host them every single month. They're super fun. Bring your friends, and whoever you if you're trying to build a tiny house, you're always down to give advice to people. I know that.
Yeah,
right?
there's so much power in having a little bit of knowledge and experience, especially with
Mm-hmm.
little projects. And quite
Yep.
honestly, I love talking to people about their projects and helping in whatever way I can. So
He
would love to
does.
see you there.
Yeah, to his detriment sometimes, but it's really nice.
Can't help myself.
Yeah, it's very nice of you. I guess what advice would you give to someone who is considering building their own tiny house? Yeah, like what are some of the most important things to keep in mind during this build out process?
Number one, how patient are you? You know, things are, regardless of what I believe, things never really go to plan. You know, we can make all the plans in the world, and something eventually is going to come up and slow you down or make you change your process. I think the other thing is really just the more prepared you can be, the better. So
Mm-hmm.
if you already know what you're going to do for the tiny house, you know, draw it up in SketchUp. I mean, you could get all the way down into like, this is how long I need to cut this piece of wood. You know, oftentimes when we are doing a project, I'll have every single cut that we need for an entire wall or the whole floor, or whatever it is, all ready to go in a spreadsheet. And then I can just go
Mm,
in and just cut all the pieces and then you put it together. So the prep work is really, really important. And then, of course, having the right tools for the job. There's nothing more challenging or annoying than trying to do some part of a project and not have the right tools for it.
yeah.
Because it's going to slow you down. It's going to end up costing you more money in the long run. So if you're unsure about buying a tool or renting one, I would say just do it, and you
Yeah.
can thank me later.
That's fair. And what about for people who might not want to do every single step themselves? Maybe they're hiring a contractor to do most of it. Any advice there?
Yeah, I mean a lot of local handymen. I'm sure people in the open house Austin network are completely open to having you help or do some or most of the project, and then you can just quote out the things that you're not comfortable with. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if it's you don't know how to do electrical, but you know how to do plumbing, you know, and everything else, you know, you could do all that and just hire an electrician or somebody who knows how to do the electrical to do that part. And
Yeah.
honestly, like, just be friendly. You know, you can get really
Yeah.
far in this industry, especially by not being a jerk.
Yeah.
So, of course, that doesn't guarantee that the person you're working with isn't going to be a jerk, but that's why you vet them first. So,
Right, that's true. And we teach you all about how to vet a contractor in our homeschool course that's on YouTube right now. So maybe we can link that up in our show notes, the specific videos we're talking about. Um, and I was gonna say one more thing. Would you? Oh, we do have. Okay, so we do have a tiny house guide from when Steph built her own. So Steph Douglas, not Steph, my sister. That's very confusing. There's two Stephs in my life. So when Steph Douglas, when she built her tiny house, she built out this guide for y'all. So you can find that on our website, download that, and there's a guide there for you as well. But Eric, would you say that, like, I guess this her guide is going to be a very different layout than what my sister's would be. So I don't know if you're interested in writing a blog or whatever, or like I can write that for you, but we can maybe work something out once you're done with my sister's tiny house, and we can show you all like her plan, some of the pictures of like the materials she's using and what she decided to do, because they're going to be very different. I feel like the one where we have on our website is like a very, like, if you're trying to just get this up, it's there's nothing fancy or anything, but it's cute, but there's no fancy detail. So it's going to be like the most efficient, maybe cheapest way to get this tiny house up and going. And then my sister's is going to be like, this is like more of a fancy experience, or maybe not fancy. What am I trying to say? I don't know.
custom. I mean, it's
Custom.
a custom versus something that you can buy off the shelf. It's really the
Exactly.
difference.
Exactly. And that was the reason my sister decided. So she did a lot of research trying to find manufactured tiny houses, because she saw that Steph Douglas had pulled on a tiny house. And I told her she should look into that, because you can finance those tiny houses, and it can be cheaper that way, meaning like, you can do a down payment and then you're paying a monthly payment versus like my sister, if you're like, she had to come up with all this cash kind of right away because she's like building it and you need that cash all at once. So it's either like you can finance something that costs $80,000 or you can spend $80,000. So
Mhm.
it's, I mean, my sister's going about it where I think she's putting a lot of it on credit cards, like no interest credit cards for 18 months or something like that. But that means she's gonna, once that 18 months is over, like interest is starting up. So she's gonna have to start paying that off pretty quickly. So you pick your poison with that, but she couldn't find anything she really liked that was already built. And the ones she could find that were already built, they were kits, and they were, like Eric said, they were very expensive. They were probably like $160,000. So yeah. But okay, thanks Eric. Thanks for doing this so last minute with me. I hope y'all enjoyed this podcast, kind of talking about building out your own tiny house, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Leche on the menge.
Oh no. Okay. Oh, so no. Oh God. Bye.
Bye.
What did you say? What?
I said leche on the menge.
What does that even mean?